Personally, I was 15 here in Houston, Texas, already shooting music videos for like people in the streets. I was doing like video production services. I was doing photography, graduation photos, all before I like decided to take a break from Houston and go to LA. My name is Gilberto Giles-Sosa. I'm a film producer, a business owner, and also an actor. And I'm from Houston, Texas. So I started creating online by making YouTube videos because a group of friends that wanted me to produce their YouTube videos didn't have money to pay me. So they said, we have a channel with subscribers. We can pay you in clout. So I kind of went with that. It was 2017. I didn't really know what that was going to amount to. Ultimately, I came in there as a producer and I became a personality in front of the camera, which I found out has its benefits. And I was deep in it by the time I realized that I wasn't getting paid, but it was okay because now I had like an audience. And also something that YouTube teaches you is consistency. So I learned that consistency was the name of like building an audience online. So now when I think of filmmaking, I think of how like I can be as consistent as possible, whether that's having like a production model that can be repeated, or whether that's thinking of stories that can be created, lean on a lean budget, or that can be created from one month to another, whether that be shorts, or right now I'm working on my feature and I'm thinking of like, how can I shoot this in like 10 days, 15 days, and with like 5 people on camera and maybe like a small crew, or like, again, it's like bringing back that YouTube resourcefulness that I was doing almost like a decade ago, but now that I'm using for filmmaking because, I made like over 100 YouTube videos by myself in a year. And then I made like over 200 YouTube videos with me and my friends. So it was like a year of YouTube and like all these people like watching us in real time because we're posting daily. And it was basically like reality TV, but that taught me that like consistency was like the name of the game. And, with filmmaking, I feel like if you want to make it a career, that's also the same. Yeah, as long as I like to say I'm like consistently inconsistent with filmmaking, but it's normal, I feel like it's the tragedy of an artist. So when I was 12, I started acting, and then I kind of went into filmmaking because I didn't really have control of my acting career because I was a kid. And I realized that directing was gonna be the way of me getting control of like being a part of the industry. And also because I couldn't move to LA, even though I had the opportunity to at that time, because my family didn't have any money. I decided that acting was gonna be a part of my adulthood again, like around 3 years ago when I started taking acting classes. And through taking acting classes, I realized that I had been directing for so long, but I didn't know what I was doing with these actors. I never took an acting class as a director. And I think that if you want to be a better director, it's important to know how your actor functions. So I think that after I took these acting classes, which I've been taking for years now, and I've also been doing coaching, I started to understand a little bit more of the filmmaking process and how the filmmaking process is a little bit more for the filmmaker. Meanwhile, the acting process can be on the stage, it can be, on film. Because of the way film works, it doesn't always translate the same. I think acting has really taught me like just how to be very technical with the way that I am about like the acting stuff of how it's gonna be interpreted on camera, how it's gonna show up in the edit, or more importantly also just making sure that I'm present, because with doing anything in film, maybe you don't have to be so present and you can get away with it because you're behind the scenes. But when you're doing anything in acting, the camera sees every single little detail of your face, where if you even like you move your eyebrow a little bit because you're thinking of something, or if you forget about the scene for a split second, it doesn't work anymore. The scene doesn't work. Especially now that I'm producing, because I used to direct more. Now I look back and I'm like, please don't show me anything, because I'm not proud of most of those things. I'm proud that I made it. I'm thankful for the people that helped me. I really wish I could have taken acting classes before I started directing, or through the directing process, because I would have understood how to guide my actors better. I think social media is affecting cinema in maybe positive and negative ways. I think for the most part, it's great because you're being exposed to cinema that you would have never been exposed to unless you would have grown up around it. That includes foreign films. Also, there's a lot of filmmakers that I follow that are not from like the US, and it's all because of social media, connecting with these international communities where maybe before you would have been limited to just connecting with your community, like, I don't know, here in Houston or just in LA. LA or whatever, but now you can connect with communities from all over the world. So I think social media is doing something really positive where like you're able to like look for your people no matter where you are in the world. And also you're able to find your type of movies and stories no matter where you are in the world. Like me with watching like Mexican films and obviously not having that available here in the US at all times. But I also think in many negative ways, it's hard because you're putting cinema to compete with content. And as someone who's made content before, content is just so much more to be consistent, so much easier to be consistent at, where cinema is a process. Cinema can take years. And I don't know if competing them, putting them next to each other, it's a good thing, because if people only have 3 hours a day and you're giving them a phone where they can watch 100 videos in one day, or they can watch one movie outside of their phone, or even if it's on their phone, it's one movie, most people are gonna choose those 100 videos because they're getting so much variety, so much like options. I think that's what we're seeing right now. Like, I think Gen Z kind of like hold back on it, and where a lot of like older millennials and stuff like that, maybe they grew up with it, so like they're really fascinated by social media now, and that's what they're after. So I don't know, I think it's a give or take. For me, it's more of a give, because now I can get out there and kind of put my films online and seeing where they can reach beyond just my city, beyond my state, beyond my country, and hope that maybe if it's not here in the US, I can have a career somewhere else in the world. Around 2020, I was trying to figure out what to do next in my life, because I kind of had already given up on social media, I had given up on YouTube, and I had already like gone to New York, and then I had to move back to Texas because of the pandemic. I was figuring out like what is gonna be missing in the market for the next few years, and also what is a job that I can have to where I don't have to be in front of the camera again, because I was ready for a new chapter, I was ready for something new. And what I realized is that there was gonna be a big spike of content creators coming from TikTok and YouTube because of the pandemic. And I was like, what about like creators like myself that never had like a management or just like guidance that could take them to the next level? Because a lot of people get like these millions of followers or hundreds of thousands of followers, but they never make any money, they never have any opportunities from it. And it's such a finite amount of time that if you don't do it when you're supposed to, it kind of goes away, and then you kind of don't gain anything from it. So you still have to keep like looking for the next opportunity, even though your next opportunity wasn't having that audience turn into money and turn into opportunities. I realized that there was not like a white glove version of that for like Latino creators. If there was gonna be a bunch of Latino creators out there that were going to succeed in social media, then there should also be a Latino manager out there, a Latino company out there that was all about them. I came up with Combat Studios because I saw it as like a media company that was going to guide them into like their next era of their career, but also into making them money that they never would have imagined, where like a lot of our creators, they turn their followers and stuff like that into buying houses for themselves, into buying cars for themselves, into just monetizing from their audience. And not only that, but also getting the best deals possible when it came to these contracts, when it came to these partnerships. A lot of the time when you're like a Latino on the roster of other people that are not Latino, maybe you're not seen as like a high ticket person, even though you might be. So like we started pricing our people to the market value that we believe they're supposed to be. Eventually the market caught up probably by year 3, where like we started doing like 7-figure like in deals for our creators. And that became a really big deal for us, because we saw like, oh, we're doing something right, because it went from like making like a really low 6 figures to like 7 figures with the same people. So Combat Studios was just kind of built to not only create like this safe space for like all these Latino creators to kind of feel like we understood each other, especially because it was like a Latino CEO, I'm talking to myself, but also just to have like a launch pad into wherever else they went, even if they went and worked with other companies. Now we're kind of more focused on making more media, so creating more like productions and stuff like that, like films, but management is still part of our services. After Rehearsal is a story about a group of theater kids trying to make it to the top, but the only catch is that they don't have any money, and their theater program might or might not shut down based on how it does that year. To anyone who did it one act play in high school or just any of those league competitions, it's kind of like trying to make it to sports, to like playoffs without having the equipment to make it. It's kind of like, it's a comedy. I came up with the idea just from personal experiences being a student in public school musical here in Houston. And I think if I wanted to touch on it, it would be how After Rehearsal initially started as kind of more of an idea. I didn't really think I would do anything with it. You know, I came up with like the outline and I submitted it for like a grant, and I kind of kept expanding on it. But then it wasn't until I kind of got this grant from the city to kind of like start it that I was like, oh, maybe I should make this, you know? It became like a whole like 2 months of my life that I don't even remember May or most of June, because it was all After Rehearsal, like everything. It all started with me putting out a casting out there in the internet, and the casting kind of going like viral, or like it was literally just a bunch of images. But I guess people like casting calls, especially when it's like a Latino story. The story was, you know, it had a market. Not only the people on the internet proved that when I put it online a few months ago, but also, you know, the city of Houston wanted to support it. And now the goal with After Rehearsal is kind of just to finish it, see if I can sell it to a streamer, or if I can continue to create it independently and then just kind of put it on the internet for everyone to watch, and kind of just tell a story that is like all these Latinos in this like predominantly like minority school here in Houston, Texas, coming from the background of theater kids, where like theater may not be the most mainstream art form, but I think it's one of like the classic ones. And I think that if we're gonna create anything as Gen Z, it's kind of like touching on like these classic art forms and trying to modernize them a little bit, because we didn't really have enough money to like shoot it in a school. So we came up with a concept, kind of like Dogville. I don't know if you've seen that movie Dogville with Nicole Kidman, where we shot it all in like a set here at the Deluxe Theater in like 2 days. We shot 3 different episodes. Kind of like, it feels like a play. It feels like this like set still, but like the acting and everything is like if you're in that world, you know? I think After Rehearsal right now is more like this, like you could say this adulthood project, where not only did I act in it, but I also produced it. And also I was able to get like a really amazing crew of people here in Houston, Texas, to help me like make this indie production come to life, because without them, honestly, it just wouldn't have happened. You know, what After Rehearsal taught me was that like, if you like take intentionality and actually apply it to like your projects as an artist, and you like put it out into the world, especially into the internet, you know, in my case, you might actually have a shot of like making it. Because nowadays with the algorithms online, if you can use it to your advantage, especially for your indie production, you have to, because we don't know how much longer we have with that. So it's kind of like these next 6 months and next year, it's gonna be like very like online, trying to bridge that gap between like all these strangers that maybe want to be a part of my projects like After Rehearsal, and me with this type of crazy projects that maybe are not the most marketable but are very important, and just putting them out there and seeing if the audience finds them, whether that be the crew, the cast, or just the audience that's actually going to go out and watch it, or that's going to buy a ticket to go and see it. I think growing up in Houston really taught me just how to be grounded in reality. And as an artist, it's really given me like a very multifaceted approach to how I go about it. So like whenever I went to like all these other cities to try stuff like New York, LA, Mexico City, I realized that a lot of that it took for me to succeed there, I already was carrying it with me. And it was largely because of where I grew up. You know, we grew up in Houston, Texas, the 4th largest city in the country and one of the largest, you know, in the world. There's the stigma that you need to go out and leave your I guess your nest to prosper. And I think that has some validity for a very small percentage of people. But I find that for a lot more people, if they haven't tapped into their community locally, that they're really missing out. Personally, I was 15 here in Houston, Texas, already shooting music videos for like people in the streets. I was doing like video production services. I was doing photography, headshots, graduation photos, all before I like decided to take a break from Houston and go to LA and just, you know, try another cities. I've actually found myself coming back to Houston, Texas more than I have found myself trying to leave Houston, Texas. And I think for anyone watching that is thinking about leaving, I would ask them first, have you tried meeting all the people in your city that are like you, like these clubs, that like the film clubs, you know, putting yourself out there on social media and just seeing if your content makes it to other people like you? Or have you tried going to meetups? Have you tried going to colleges and seeing like films in colleges, like at U of H, etc.? Not to say that maybe you're gonna meet your people here, but if you haven't at least tried, I think it's a big disservice trying to leave to another city before before you even try to understand what's in your city. And if it's not in your city, in the whole state of Texas. I think when people go to other cities, they forget that there's a big cost to it. And also mentally, there's a lot you have to go through growth-wise to be able to survive there. And I don't know if being in survival mode, you're gonna create your best work. And if you're working, in a bigger city, and people like to say tier 1 cities like LA or New York, you're gonna spend a lot of time more trying to survive there than creating art. So I like to say try to make your city your tier 1 city before you try to go and feed into this narrative that there is such thing as tier 1 or tier 2 cities, and instead just see what's out there, because you might be missing out. And I find more often than not, people who try to leave Houston before they even tap into the community here, that they're just not looking. They're all, the grass is always on the other side. Is how it would close to us. And more often than not, it's not, unless you have a lot of money, a big social media following, and even then, you still have to do the work. I think it's really important to give yourself chances when it comes to our work as artists, or just even if you're a business owner like myself. Somehow we don't have a lot of trouble doing it for other people, but we have a lot of trouble doing it for ourselves. And right now I'm in this part of my life where I'm giving myself another chance with making movies, with creating content online, and how I'm perceived, and more importantly, just reinventing myself. Before that, I kind of realized oh wait, everything I'm building is really cool, but I don't know if I identify with all of it right now, or just in general, and I don't know if that's fulfilling to me. So I think right now, my main message is, if there's ever something that you want to try, especially film, is to give yourself another chance, especially if you didn't like the way your last film went, or if you didn't like the way the engagement of your last post on social media, is to keep giving yourself chances, because the only person that can stop giving yourself more chances when it comes to anything that you control, like creating, is going to be yourself. So why not just, why give it a limit? So I think right now it's all about, that era of life of giving myself another chance to live, reinvent myself in what type of artist I want to be.